Alright, 2017 has finally come to an end. Despite everything else, I think that it has actually been a very good year for movies. There's been a lot of really great films that have come out this year. Lots of them I loved. Not going to be talking about all of them today. I'm going to be talking about my 10 favorite movies of 2017. A couple of things to keep in mind. I've seen a lot of movies this year, I think. I have not seen every movie this year, so there's going to be a few movies that won't make that list just because I haven't seen them. This is also my personal list. It's going to be different for everybody. I'm sure that there's some movies on here that people are going to disagree with, and that's totally fine. That's what movies are about. It's about discussion and trying to talk about something. Especially a couple of the movies on this list really do bring out a few interesting questions to ask. And so that's all the disclaimer that I gotta say for this. Without further ado, let's get into my number 10 favorite movie of 2017, and that is Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. I really enjoyed the first Guardians of the Galaxy. It caught me by surprise, like I think it did with most everybody else. And the second one actually surprised me even more because I enjoyed it just as much as I did the first one. The characters in this movie are great. I enjoy watching each and every one of them. They all have their own little arc in this movie. The visual effects really blow me away in this movie. I love the soundtrack in it. Everything about this movie really works to make maybe the best time that Marvel has ever seen. Other than the first Guardians of the Galaxy, that is. Coming in at number 9 is Call Me By Your Name. This is a story about a young man named Elio and a man named Oliver, and they're both in Italy, in a small town at a vacation home, and they end up developing a relationship with one another. And this is an absolutely beautiful movie. The story in this movie really is fantastic. It tells a realistic story about how these two met and how their relationship develops over the course of the summer. And I also think that one thing that works particularly well is the location in this movie. This is one of the only movies this year where the setting really did become a true character in the movie. I felt like I was there in Italy, and I've always wanted to go to Italy, but this movie made me want to go there, not to just the big cities, but to some of the small towns that are there as well. And it really is just a fantastic story about these two individuals who found each other and had this relationship over the course of this one summer. There's a lot of heart to this story. The direction is phenomenal. Everything about this movie really does come together to make it one of the best of the year. My number 8 pick for 2017 is a movie that's actually on Netflix, and that movie is Mudbound. There's a lot of different things going on in this movie, I suppose. Part of it has to do with how one deals with post-traumatic stress disorder. Since this does take place in, I believe, it's either Louisiana or Mississippi, I can't quite remember. It takes place in the rural area of one of those two states in shortly after World War II. So racism is still very prevalent, so there's a lot of heavy themes about racial tensions between a few families and how they can still connect with one another through post-traumatic stress from World War II. And it's a movie about love, about hate, and it has messages about all of it. And it's extremely well acted. I think that this is one of the better ensembles of the year. And it really did surprise the hell out of me that I enjoyed this movie so much. I didn't expect to like it as much as I did. And it really did just blow me away. And it is on Netflix, so I would highly recommend, if you have 2 hours, check this movie out, because it is really just a great story. It's tragic at times, but it ends on a note that I think really wrapped this movie up very well. Of course, I won't give it away, but the last line of the movie I found to be very touching, and I thought that it worked quite well. And I'm very happy that I saw this movie too. Number 7 is going to be Last Flag Flying. This movie had everything going for it. It had a great cast. It had a great director, Richard Linklater, and he directed the hell out of this movie. And it's not as though it were flashy direction. It's just that this movie seems to flow so well, and that maybe that has something to do with the editing as well, but I really think that Richard Linklater brought something to this movie that another director wouldn't have necessarily been able to achieve. And so this is a great story about what it means to serve your country and what it means to die for your country in the most interesting of circumstances, let's say. and it brings in it's one of the most unique war films in that way. There's no big battles in this movie. It's just these three older men who used to serve back in Vietnam, and they're going through this experience with one another, and it's a really great story to watch. I highly recommend checking this one out because I know a lot of people haven't seen it. It wasn't the biggest movie of the year, that's for sure, but I really do think that this is a great movie, and I'm very happy that I actually went out of my way to see this, and I'm very, very happy that I did. Number 6 is going to be Wind River. I loved Sicario. I loved Hell or High Water. And Taylor Sheridan wrote both of those movies, and I heard he was going to write another one this year called Wind River, and that's why this was one of my most anticipated movies of 2017. The only reservation I had was that sometimes writers don't make the best directors, but he proved me wrong on that, because this movie is just great through and through. Great performances, great writing, I think that the direction in this movie is very solid as well. There's twists and turns in here. It's one of the better movies of this genre, I would say. It's a murder mystery, and it, again, takes the setting and does something with it. And I really appreciate the way that this movie was put together. It was extremely well made. There's highs and there's lows. This movie affects me emotionally, too. I think that there's a really big gut punch near the end of the movie where it's just trying to get across this message. It's so powerful, and if you have not seen this movie, this is absolutely one worth checking out. Jeremy Renner gives one of the best performances of his career. Everyone in this movie is on the top of their game, both in front of and behind the camera. I think that this is absolutely fantastic. I can't wait to see what else Taylor Sheridan comes out with. Number 5 is probably my biggest surprise of the year, and that is Get Out. I saw the trailer for this movie, and I remember me and my friends were saying that we didn't exactly take it that seriously. We thought it was going to be a secret comedy of some sort, and it definitely isn't. This is a fantastic movie. Jordan Peele was part of the reason that I had reservations about it to begin with from Key and Peele. I had never watched too much of the show, but from what I did, it didn't seem like this movie was going to end up being the way that it was, because this is an incredibly well directed. I think that this is the best directed movie of the year. I'd go as far as to say that. Everything about this movie works so well. There's a great mystery, and once you find out what's going on, it's truly shocking. And in a way, it is horrifying. I wouldn't consider this to be a straight up horror movie, but it is horrifying, some of the things that happen in this movie. And it's really well done all around. The performances are fantastic. Jordan Peele completely knocks it out of the park with his first feature film, and I can't wait to see what else he's got coming out, quite frankly. Because if it's anything like this, it's totally going to be worth checking out. Number 4 is Logan. And this is such a powerful movie. I've been a fan of the X-Men movies for a very long time. I kind of grew up on them a little bit in my later childhood. And to watch Wolverine as a character progress throughout all of these movies, this is a beautiful finale for him. An excellent send-off. This movie has everything going for it. The direction is great. The writing is great. The action in this movie is terrific and like nothing I've ever seen in a superhero movie. The performance by Hugh Jackman and by Patrick Stewart as well. Both of them are just captivating. They're heartbreaking at times. It's maybe the best superhero movie for me in a way, even though I don't really consider this to be a straight superhero movie. This is a character drama, and I think that's what makes it work so well. It doesn't care about comic book stuff that the other movies of this type seem to care about as well, where it just takes these characters and puts them into this situation, and it works absolutely excellently. I'm sad to see the last. I'm sad that this is the last that Hugh Jackman is going to be Wolverine, but I think that this is the best way they could possibly have sent him off. So thank you for making this movie as great as it is. For those of you who worked on it that are watching this, I guess. Number 3. This was also a bit of a surprise for me. That's The Shape of Water. The only other Guillermo del Toro movie that I have seen is Pacific Rim, and I didn't like Pacific Rim at all. I thought it was stupid. I didn't find any of it to be very interesting. It just sort of bored me. And so I never really wanted to check out any of his other films because that was my first exposure to him. But after seeing The Shape of Water, I want to see everything else this guy has to offer. This is a beautiful love story between a mute woman played by Sally Hawkins, wonderfully, by the way. She gives a terrific performance. She also just owns it. It's about her falling in love with this amphibian man, and the two of them develop a really beautiful relationship with one another. I understand where this movie might not really be for everybody, because it is going to be a little bit bizarre at times, just because it ends up being quite an intimate relationship between these two characters, and everything about this movie really works. I liked all of the characters in this movie, even the antagonists that were working against this relationship. I thought that Michael Shannon did a really great job, and I thought that he had a really great character as well. I also think that Guillermo del Toro really did knock it out of the park with his direction in this movie. The production of it is quite excellent as well. And I'm really happy that I saw this movie. This movie made me very happy by the end of it. I remember leaving the theater with a smile on my face, and I can't wait to see this one again, quite frankly. My number 2 pick is Blade Runner 2049. Now, this one isn't much of a surprise because of how much I love Denis Villeneuve as a director. Arrival was my favorite movie of last year. It continues to be my favorite movie of last year. And Blade Runner 2049 is just spectacular. I like the first Blade Runner. I think it's a pretty good movie. I think that it is a bit slow, however. But 2049, despite it being almost 3 hours, I am never once bored during this movie, because of absolutely everything. The performances are terrific. The visuals are phenomenal. Roger Deakins as a cinematographer, please win an Oscar for that. Denis Villeneuve just directs the hell out of this movie. It's absolutely phenomenal. And I don't think that you have to have seen the original Blade Runner in order to enjoy this movie either. It does stand on its own. It's simply a continuation of the story. They even provide a little bit of text at the beginning to set you up for what you're about to experience. And this movie is just phenomenal in every sense of the word. It's a technical marvel, and I remember this story is just something else. I cannot wait for this to come out on Blu-ray, because I'm going to buy it and I'm going to watch it over and over and over. And, it's so good. It's so good. But there was one movie this year, one movie, that I thought was better than Blade Runner 2049. That is a movie that I think not a lot of people are going to agree with me. In fact, I know several people who hate this movie and who think that it's the worst movie of the year and even the worst movie of all time. And this is a very polarizing movie. They even started using that in the ad campaign, which I thought was sort of clever. The movie that I'm talking about is Mother. This movie blew me away. This is the only true experience that I had watching a movie at a theater. And what I mean by that is that from start to finish, from the opening shot, this movie had me on the edge of my seat. It truly did. It was absolutely phenomenal. I was invested in everything that was happening in this movie. It's such an interesting film where there are so many layers to it. There's not just what's happening on the surface, but what it represents as a whole. And it's just so fantastic. I love this movie. I wouldn't just say that this is my favorite movie of the year either. This is my favorite movie since Inception. For those of you who don't know, Inception is one of my top 3 movies of all time. Right up there with Empire Strikes Back and Saving Private Ryan. I think that Mother is absolutely phenomenal. And in fact, if you guys read, or if you used to read, my written reviews on this link right here, then I did say that I was going to do a more extended review and analysis, and that is going to be coming out relatively soon. I just got it on Blu-ray, and so I'm going to be using footage from it and doing an extended review so that I can really get into why I like this movie, because there's so many different parts at play that I can't get into it just in this top 10 list. Well, thank you so much for watching my top 10 favorite movies of the year. It's been a hell of a year. I look forward to what 2018 has to offer. Let me know how you agree with this list, how you disagree with this list. Let me know in the comments below what some of your favorite movies of this year are. And as always, please be sure to like and subscribe. And I'll see you next time for my top 10 worst movies of 2017.